Hello friends, I'm Tim Wildsmith, and in this video we're going to take a closer look at what the Bible says about tattoos. So if you're new to my channel, my name's Tim and I create videos about the Bible. A lot of it is for a project called Bible Review Blog. And a lot of people ask me, they leave comments, they send me messages, and they ask about my tattoos because obviously I have full sleeve tattoos. I have tattoos in other places on my body as well, and I get a lot of comments. Some people are very kind and inquisitive and they just want to know more about them. Other people are not so kind and they leave comments that sometimes have been hurtful to my feelings about my tattoos. And so I wanted to create a video because I do have thoughts about tattoos and what the Bible says about tattoos. And so I thought it would be good for me to share this, and when people ask about my tattoos, I can kind of point them to this video, but also to create something to kind of share with you what I think about it. So, what does the Bible say about tattoos? Well, let me read you. This is a Bible, and this is open to Leviticus chapter 19, verse 28, and it says, "You shall not make any cuts in your body for the dead, nor make any tattoo marks on yourselves. I am the Lord." That's Leviticus 19:28 from the New American Standard Version, and that's what the Bible says about tattoos. Thanks for watching. I'm joking. So yeah, Leviticus 19:28 is the only place in the Bible where the Bible mentions tattoos. If you are a King James fan, you might notice that when you go to Leviticus 19:28, it doesn't actually say tattoo marks, it just says marks. They didn't actually use the word tattoo in English translations until after the King James Bible was printed. So that's a modern word to kind of reference what this verse is talking about. So there's a couple of words there that, so let's say this. Yes, the Bible says very clearly here in Leviticus 19:28, you should not get tattoos. And if you just want to read it and take it like it is, that is what it says. And so I think that's where a lot of people get the thought that tattoos are not biblical or tattoos are wrong according to the Bible. I'd like to peel back the layers of what this is for a second. So first of all, Leviticus was originally written in Hebrew, and there's a translation process that's happening here. So there's a couple of words here, the Hebrew word for cuts and the Hebrew word for marks. It's that second one that is most often translated in English now as tattoos. And so the idea behind this is what they're talking about is marking yourself or cutting yourself. And it says here specifically about for the dead. So there was a pagan practice at the time that this was written where people would do these sorts of things, these blood offerings, these cutting of themselves. And that was to honor the dead or to pay offerings to the dead. And so that's what this verse is talking about, and the kind of modern translation that we've come away for this second word that means marks is tattoos. That's a close thing. So I would say there's one way to say I'm not sure that when Leviticus was written that the idea behind these marks is the exact same thing as modern tattoos. In fact, I'm pretty confident that it wasn't, but let's just go ahead and give the benefit of the doubt and say that it's similar to what modern tattoos are. So then we have to go a little bit deeper and say, what is this passage of the Bible? Well, Leviticus 19 is in a section here in Leviticus that's known as the Holiness Codes. It's 7 or 8 chapters, priestly literature, that is basically talking about what we must do, the requirements for people, or the bans, the things that are said you can't do in order to be holy before God. So rules, regulations, things that must be done, things that must not be done. That's the Holiness Code here in Leviticus. And so one of the things that I would say is there's a lot of verses in here. There's a lot of verses in the Holiness Code. And like, for example, here's one. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just going to throw you the verse right before 1928. 1927 says, "You shall not round off the side growth of your heads, nor harm the edges of your beard." So one verse before this verse about tattoos, it basically says, don't cut your hair, don't trim your beard. And you know what? Out of all the comments that I've gotten on this YouTube channel about my tattoos, where people challenge me because I have tattoos, no one has ever challenged me because I've gotten my hair cut. No one has ever challenged me because I trim my beard. And that's because I think often we look at one verse about tattoos, and if it bothers us personally or we're raised in a context where we think it's wrong, we then highlight one verse. But let's just make sure we know. Or here's another one. Back in verse 19, it says that you're not allowed to wear two garments that are made from mixed materials. And I don't know about you, but I have a ton of t-shirts. I'm wearing a t-shirt underneath this shirt right now. That's mixed materials. It's a tri-blend t-shirt. I'm assuming that this shirt that I'm wearing right now is from different materials. And so I'm not turning the attention away from the verse of tattoos, but I am saying there's a lot of language in the Holiness Code. And I don't think it's fair for us to tell people who have tattoos that they're sinners and that the Bible says they can't do that if we're not willing to look at all of this language and say we have to apply all of that to our lives. And so that leads me to my next point, which is the holiness code something that we are expected to live by today, right here, right now, in modernity? And my belief as a modern day Christian is that Jesus Christ fulfilled the law. We read about that in the New Testament, that when God sent his son Jesus, he lived and he died and he defeated sin and death when he rose from the grave, and that through faith in Jesus, that what we mean when we talk about salvation in its broadest sense is that we believe in Jesus, right? And that Jesus fulfilled this law. And if you go to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 12, the religious leaders, the experts of this very law that we're talking about, they asked Jesus what the most important commandments were. What did he tell people? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said that's what it means to live out this law, to love God and to love people. Jesus didn't talk about tattoos. So when people ask me what I think about tattoos and say the Bible says you shouldn't get tattoos, I think there's some context here. There's some things about where this was written, what's around it, and what Jesus means because of this, and what the life and the death and resurrection of Jesus means and how we interpret these laws. And so for me, the answer is, when I think about what the Bible says about tattoos, my answer is there's one place in Leviticus 19:28 where it mentions that you shouldn't get tattoos, but there's some context there. And I believe that Jesus has fulfilled this law. And I believe that Jesus was most concerned with us loving God and loving people. And I think tattoos are a personal choice, but I do not believe when I read these scriptures, when I take it all into account, that this is telling Christians that they cannot have tattoos or that they should not have tattoos. As a matter of fact, many of my tattoos are part of my story of loving God and loving people. So I think that, yeah, you have to be wise with what you choose to do, what you choose to spend your money on and do with your body. But I definitely believe that there's room for us to faithfully read and love and interpret the scriptures and follow Jesus and be people who have tattoos. So that's what I think the Bible says about tattoos.